Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the Remette Knives Meteor. I think this is an absolutely stunning knife, and this may just become my new favorite Remette knife to date. It's a great EDC size at 7.48 inches overall. It has a 2.99 inch drop point blade and Bowler M390 stainless steel, which they have hardened from 60 to 62 HRC. It has a fine satin with their pearlescent finish, which is like a fine, I'm guessing, blasting or whatever, but not usually something I like to see. However, they do a lot of finishing work underneath here, and I've not had any corrosion issues yet with this finish. And something I have noticed after testing a lot of their knives in this pearlescent finish, because of it being such a slick finish, it causes a lot less drag through denser materials, and that's awesome. I love that. Now, because of the way this grind is, it's almost like a bayonet grind there, except it's a little bit higher. You're gonna have a pretty stout tip there, reinforced tip, so if you need to do a little twist and turning, you're gonna be a-okay there. You do have some jimping there. It's more so for that front flipper. You know, that doesn't bother me any, but it's not going to give you a whole lot of extra traction if that's what you're hoping for. You have dual thumb studs that stay out of the cutting path, as you see there. And you have a good sharpening choil. You're going to get some sharpening life about to where my fingernail is before you'll have to worry about that widening on you. Your blade stock thickness is coming in at 0.13, and you have a flat grind that they still managed to get to around 15 thousandths behind the edge. So as long as this one came sharp, it should be a decent little slicer. Let's find out. Now, even though this one isn't going to be the super slicer like some of these knives, it still came with a very sharp edge. And you know, I've tested quite a few, I think almost at least 90% of the Remette knives, and I haven't really got any that really underwhelmed me. I think they list the HRC to 60 to 62, and I would say it's probably in that ballpark. You got a thin, they still managed to get it thin enough, especially toward the heel, and you know, it's slicing well. Now we're testing those ergos. For my medium-sized hands, I'm nice and locked in. That flare toward the butt and the front is something I love seeing. You have a somewhat of like a contoured effect with these large chamfers, you know, going from the middle. And I'm able to get a good bit of force into the wood. Nothing really poking or prodding me. You know, maybe where the bottom part of the scales transitions into the butt end of the knife, if your hands are bigger than mine and you're landing on that, it may start to get uncomfortable when you're really bearing down, but so far so good for me. Now, toward that tip is going to be the thickest portion because your grind height is very low, but it was still sharp enough to where this wasn't, you know, that difficult. And not to mention, you got a nice low tip drop point, so the versatility on this thing is really going to shine. This is, you know, my type of blade here. And, you know, before I even got started, I was really hoping it was going to do really well because I love this knife. This is now my new favorite Remette. And I did not expect that because, I mean, if you've been watching the channel long enough, you know I prefer my super slicey, versatile blades. That's what I usually go for. But you know, from time to time something like this will come out, and I like the aesthetics of it. I like me some silver twill carbon fiber. If it's not your thing, they got other ones, but for me, I used to hate silver twill. I just think it looks so classy now, and especially how they did it on this one with the micro milling on one side. It just looks unique. And yeah, this one really checked all the boxes for me. It's slicey enough, came with a sharp enough edge. You know, it's got multiple deployment methods. You got the frame lock, the button frame lock we'll talk about later in the video. Yeah, all in all, I like every aspect of this knife. Only thing that would have made this one better in my eyes is if they would, the bottom grind, if they would have made that a hollow grind, then it would have been fantastic. But at least this way you can use that tip a little harder because you have a lot more meat behind it. But I thought this one performed great. Yeah, I thought it performed perfectly a-okay. You know, is it a super slicer? No, because it doesn't have the highest flat grind. But, you know, as long as it's nice and sharp, it was going through material just as good as the next knife. Now, let's take a look at the deployment action on this one. So you have dual thumb studs, plus you have this front flipper. Let's see how that front flipper works. I do think they could have made this jimping a little bit sharper, but I can still reliably front flip it. Let's see, can I do the reach around? It's not the easiest. Can I do the knuckle roll? Yep, I can do the knuckle roll. And then you have the thumb studs, which that's probably my preferred means there. You can slow roll it. You can reverse flick it. Nice smooth action, getting smoother and smoother every time I open and close it. Now, you can see this button right here. They did one of these button actuated frame locks. So you press this button, and if you watch the frame move over like that, I wonder if Bestech's doing these, the OEM. I don't know who the actual OEM is. I'll have to ask them that. The reason I say that is because Knife Standards came up with this idea right here. This little button hooked to the frame lock. And Bestech is his OEM. So, I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me because the fit and finish on these knives is impeccable. You can also use that button to actuate the knife. And then if you want to keep your fingers out of the blade path when closing, you can use it. Or if you're like me and you just forget a lot and you want to use it as a traditional frame lock, you can get in there and disengage it that way as well. So this would be considered a bolster lock, as you see there. It's always cool to have options. I'm not a front flipper fan. However, I got other options if I don't want to do that. Let's touch on the ergos real quick. You can see this line going down the middle. That's going to create a contoured effect in the hand. They knocked off any of these edges on the side. The width right here fills out my medium-sized hands perfectly. I was able to get a good bit of force into what I was cutting, and I thought it was pretty darn comfortable. You know, this grip is fine. It's a little awkward feeling just because of how this is set up, but it's not, I don't feel any hot spots. The clip's not bothering me any. And then the reverse gas station knife fight grip is comfortable because you got this flat spot, or you can wrap around that top, which is rounded over. So that ought to be nice and comfortable as well. Let's take a look at these scales. So I have the black titanium bolsters, and then this absolutely stunning, in my opinion, silver twill carbon fiber. And on the show side for sure, this side has a very, hopefully you can see that, a very fine micro milling. And it offers, I mean, when I say the perfect amount of traction without being uncomfortable or anything, your fitment up to that tie is nice and tight. It's beveled on both sides, so if it looks like it's a gap, that's not a gap. You have a 3/4 length titanium backspacer, hidden lanyard post in the back. Your pivots, Torx T8. Unfortunately, they went with T6 for the cover screws and for your clip screw. You do have a nice mill tie pocket clip. However, it is tip upright, hand carry only, unfortunately for my lefties. Come on, help my lefties out here, peeps. You have that same contoured effect on the mill tie clip. As you can see, that big chamfer on both sides, splitting it down the middle, making it have that contoured feeling. Enough ramp to go over the lip of my jeans. And in my jeans, this one goes in and out of the pocket nicely. In my lightweight shorts, it's a little bit tighter, which is fine because you don't want the tension to be too loose on top of the smooth carbon fiber. And it sits fairly deep in the pocket. You still have something to grab a hold to pull out. And there is no internal milling. All your weight-saving milling was done right here to house this carbon fiber on both sides. So it's going to have a little bit extra heft because it's not a skinny knife by any means. And then you have this tie backspacer, tie clip, bringing the weight to 4.17 ounces. And in my opinion, that's perfectly fine. It carries nicely. It didn't feel cumbersome in the pocket at all. So I'm good with it. The lockup on my knife is sitting at around 30 to 40% or so. Access to the lock bar is good. This comes down a little bit lower. You got a nice chamfer there. And if you want to use the actual frame lock, it's comfortable to disengage with the tip of your thumb, this portion. Or if you want to completely keep your fingers out of that blade path, you just press the button. You can watch it up close here. You can probably see it in the back right there. And you push it over. It's going to move the frame lock over. Yeah, knife standards, genius idea. Very, very smooth once you release that lock, riding on those cage front ball bearings with that ceramic detent ball. The lockup on this one, almost made a fatal mistake just now. I put my finger right there when I was doing this. So let me retry that. Let me make sure this thing's all the way, okay. Keep my fingers away from the button. That will disengage it. And no movement up or down, left or right. Bank vault. Now for some quick size comparisons. It's smaller than the Ontario Rat 1 and it's a little bigger than the Ontario Rat 2. It's in between the Spyderco PM2 and Parrot 3. And it's just a little shorter than the Remette WD107 and it's just a hair longer than a Benchmade Bug Out. And it's a hair shorter than the Remette Peregrine Falcon, and it's a good bit bigger than the Remette Woodpecker. And lastly, it's a little shorter than the Benchmade 940, and it's a little longer than the Remette Rhino. And we all know no knife is perfect, so what are my nitpicks and complaints? First off, there's no lefty love here, and I would have loved to see T8 hardware throughout. Both of those aren't a deal breaker for me, but if you're a lefty, I totally understand. I think this is an absolutely stunning knife, and if this one doesn't do it for you, there's several other options to choose from. It's got fantastic action. I love the button actuated frame locks because I'm so used to frame locks, or should I say button actuated bolster lock, because that's what this would technically be. Beautiful action. I think it's a great looking knife. It performed a-okay. They did a good job of thinning it out as much as they could. Only other thing they could have done is put a hollow grind on here, which would have been awesome, but the way it sits, I've been enjoying it. It's nice and comfortable. It's a very well-made knife. Over the last year, Remette's quality has stepped up dramatically. They've always been well-made knives, but just like the natural progression to all these companies, they keep getting better and better, and now the quality of knife you get is just next level. Definitely would love to hear y'all thoughts on the Remette Meteor. Does this one interest y'all at all? This particular variation comes in at $239. So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. If you're interested in picking up one of these and you want to help support the channel, you can use my links that will be down below in the description. I hope every single one of y'all is having a fantastic day today. And remember, keep these blades sharp. Smile more.